Hi, it's Lyndon, and one of the questions that comes up loads is around tenor saxophones, alto players that are curious about tenor saxophones. And one of the questions that I would get is, are tenor saxophones the same as altos? Are they laid out the same? What's the differences between alto and tenor saxophone? So clearly the tenor saxophone is a lot bigger. Here's an alto sax, and here's the same make and model, and these are both Selmer saxophones, and one is considerably bigger than the other. And that is a very, very obvious difference. The tenor saxophone is going to have a much deeper tone than the alto saxophone, and that is the one significant difference. The other major significant difference is that the mouthpiece on the tenor is a different size and the reeds that you use are a different size. So if you're very comfortable playing the alto saxophone, this is going to feel really, really weird, because the mouthpiece on a tenor kind of requires a different type of embouchure or mouth grip than it does on the alto saxophone. But this is going to be really good for you if you're an alto player, because it's going to expand your capacity for making a sound on saxophones in general, because your embouchure is going to have to be so much more open and relaxed for the tenor saxophone. So often when people move from the alto to the tenor, if they don't have that much experience with the tenor, they grip the mouthpiece far too tightly, and you get squeaks and other kind of unusual noises until your brain starts to adapt and your muscles start to adapt to playing the tenor. So that, in my mind, is the most significant difference. Otherwise, the instrument is laid out identically to the alto. So let's have a look. If you look at the way that the top left-hand keys are laid out on this alto saxophone, you can see that on a tenor saxophone it's pretty much exactly the same. And it's the same with the right-hand keys on both instruments. They're the same size and they're spaced out in the same way. Can you see? So the significant difference is that the distance between the left hand and the right hand on an alto saxophone is less than on a tenor saxophone. So on a tenor saxophone you just got more of a gap between your left hand and your right hand. So those are the big differences. The keys are laid out in the same way, but there's a bigger difference. The instrument is bigger and often heavier than an alto saxophone, but the really significant difference is going to be the mouthpiece and producing a tone out of the sax. That is the big significant difference that does take some time to get used to. Sit back here next to my plant. Beautiful plant. I've had that plant, believe it or not, for over 30 years. So the other questions that people ask me is, should I master the alto saxophone before I pick up the tenor? And mastering the alto saxophone, well, that is going to take the average person about 750 years. So, you know, you're not going to master the alto saxophone and then move on to the tenor. I don't really think that's how it works. So, you know, even if you've been playing the alto for a year or something, that's absolutely fine. Have a go on a tenor. It's fun. It's got a different experience to playing the alto. And that's a good thing, because it adds to your knowledge and your experience on these fantastic, stunning instruments. Another question is, will it in some way take away from my ability to play the alto? In my mind, absolutely not. It's going to add. It's going to add to your knowledge and your ability and your experience. So no, it's not going to do any damage to your alto playing. What it may do is that your embouchure might take a while to adapt to the tenor, and then when you come back to playing on the alto, that might feel a little bit weird. But I don't think it's going to do anything bad. Nothing bad is going to happen for you playing a tenor sax. It's not. And am I worthy? I'm not worthy because I haven't mastered the alto. We kind of already covered that. You're worthy. Go and buy a tenor. It'll be really good. Can you play all the tunes that you play on an alto on a tenor? Yes, of course you can. Does it sound the same? No, it's not going to sound the same, because the tenor is in a different key to the alto sax. So certain, in my mind, you can make anything sound good on either saxophone. That's just a fact. Whatever you want to play, you can play on either instrument, and it's just down to you to make it sound as good as you possibly can. Having said that, when I go out and do gigs, there's certain tunes that I prefer to play on the alto, like Take 5, and there's other tunes that I prefer to play on the tenor, like Pink Panther, because they seem to suit those particular instruments better for me, and I would feel a little bit uncomfortable playing Take 5 on the tenor. People do it, it can be done. Personally, I don't, because I've learned it on the alto and I'm very comfortable on it there, and why change? So unless you want to do it for technical exercise, which would be a good thing. So that's about the tenor saxophone. Anything else I can think of? While we're talking about the different instruments, are you aware that a soprano saxophone and a tenor and an alto saxophone, you know what we did before when we looked at the left-hand keys, look how they're laid out. They're laid out exactly. This is an alto, this is a soprano, and you can see that the keys are spaced out pretty much in an identical way. This is actually a different brand. This is a Yanagisawa, absolutely gorgeous instrument. And then the right-hand keys, again, are remarkably similar. The difference is the space between the left hand and the right hand on a soprano saxophone are very, very close together, and on an alto they'd be down here, and on a tenor they'd be down there. So the bottom line is, if you feel like or fancy having a go on a tenor saxophone, you should do it. Tenors are gorgeous. They're absolutely just gorgeous, the most beautiful things. So are altos. Personally, if I'm holding a saxophone or playing a saxophone, I feel like a lucky guy to be able to do that, whatever it is. But the tenor's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, breathy, resonant, deep, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous sound. Whereas the alto is a little bit brighter and a little bit, more, maybe it's got a different kind of vibrance to it. I love them both. I absolutely love both instruments. But if you're an alto player and you're thinking about getting a tenor saxophone and you're not sure, go out and buy one. It will only be a good thing. So I hope that helps. If you've got any questions about tenor saxophones or alto saxophones or anything saxophone related, fire me off a message in the comments and I'll get back to you straight away. See you in the next video.